INTJ versus ISTP. We got some of my favorite types right here. Some rare types right here, especially in women. These two types are both very rare in women. So the reason that I'm so passionate about personality in Myers-Briggs is because it's helping me reach my potential, and I want to help other people do the same. Like, my big mission is to help people's reality and potential line up. And that kind of starts with making sure you have the correct type, because there's different growth advice for each of the different types, and I have videos on each of the types where I describe kind of the growth advice. But it's really important that you have the type correct, because there are so many mistypes, and that's probably the biggest flaw and the biggest hiccup in this whole system. I'm going to kind of outline the details between INTJs and ISTPs by the end of this video. If you're still unclear, I have personality verification sessions, which you can find on my website, alexiskingsley.com. And I also do have more videos. I have an INTJ video, I have an ISTP video, I actually have tons of INTJ videos. I have an N versus S video, I have a J versus P video. If you're still unclear after this video, I got a few places you can go. So I'm just going to start by going through and kind of contrasting their cognitive function and give kind of some like examples and anecdotes, because I think you can find the definitions anywhere, but you can't find like personal examples anywhere. So I'm going to try to give personal examples that I've seen. So the first cognitive function I'll start by contrasting is introverted intuition. And they both have this cognitive function. So INTJs have it first and ISTPs have it third. And that's going to cause it to show up in different ways. So for INTJs, when they're in introverted intuition, that's like their dominant strength. That's who they feel like they are. They feel like healthy and alive when they're using it. Introverted intuition is kind of organizing all of the patterns internally and predicting trends futuristically. And it's very dissociated from the body. And for INTJs, that's like a good spot to be. For ISTPs, it's not. People's third and fourth function tend to be used kind of negatively. So I've noticed that when I see like ISTPs use introverted intuition, like I just saw a channel recently that said, the poles are about to flip, like the poles on the earth. The poles are about to flip. You need to put all your trust in your own farming. And that's a very like bottom two function NI way to use it. It's like the future is scary. Put your trust in physical things. I've also heard STP say the stock market is crashing. Put your trust in gold. And that's like a physical thing. So that's kind of some examples that I see with lower NI, whereas when INTJs use it, their future projections are a lot more principled. It is analyzing trends. It will analyze the stock market and things like that. I think both of these types could be interested in like the stock market or real estate and things like that. But when INTJs look at that, when they look at the future, they might say, oh, the stock market's on the decline, but that's going to give rise to this thing. And it's more hopeful, it's more principled. And if something is negative, they see then, the theoretical futuristic solution. And the solution is usually something not in existence right now, whereas for ISTPs, their solution are usually sensory things that are in existence right now. And I think you can just tell the difference. When INTJs are an introverted intuition, they seem healthy. It's good for them. When ISTPs are an introverted intuition, it mostly just comes off as dissociating or being scared of the future. I see in arguments ISTPs shutting down, like just becoming mute, like their mind goes completely blank. So yeah, it's mostly for ISTPs, it's mostly just a means to be scared of the future and to dissociate from the body. But they can use it positively. Like a lot of those negative examples I named are especially when they're younger, like in their teens and 20s. If you're in your 40s, I've seen ISTPs, they'll go work in their shop and then they'll listen to like a business podcast while they're in their shop. And so that's a little bit of that philosophy side. One thing to realize is that introverted intuition is kind of like unconsciously realizing trends. It's not tracking things. So an ISTP may be more likely to look at the stock market and like maybe every day they're looking at it to see the trends, whereas an INTJ, it's kind of like unconscious. It's not daily tracking things. So their second cognitive function, all contrasts, are their thinking function. So INTJs have extroverted thinking, ISTPs have introverted thinking. Extroverted thinking is trying to organize the external logical criteria. So that means they're interested in efficiency, organizing people, leading people, getting things done, getting them done quickly. This is where I think there's a big difference between INTJs and ISTPs. An INTJ is going to be a lot more likely to be fine working in like the 38th floor of a huge skyscraper, being in a cubicle. Like an INTJ is not going to care as much. Like I don't think anyone really likes cubicles, but for INTJs, that doesn't seem nearly as repulsive because they don't have sensing as high up. And TE really likes skyscrapers, massive buildings, working in an office, wearing a suit and tie. Those are very TE type things. ISTPs don't have that. They have introverted thinking, and that's organizing the logical criteria in here. And introverted functions tend to be a lot slower. So ISTPs, I tend to notice they work very carefully and methodically, in my opinion, slowly, but they do things to a really high quality. And both these types are problem solvers, ISTPs and INTJs. But ISTPs tend to be a little bit more physical problem solvers, and it's more logical on the inside. They more have like an internal leadership. They have more of a sense of internal integrity, and that's why I find ISTPs so respectable. They have a huge sense of telling the truth and being righteous and integrity. And that's just massive for ISTPs. I mean, a huge sense of integrity. Like, you get a healthy ISTP and they just won't lie to you. Sometimes introverted thinking does cause, I guess, some like foot in the mouth because they won't lie to you. But ultimately, like, it's a net positive, a huge net positive. INTJs, so they have more of this like external leadership, a to-do list, having a planner, probably have a Google Calendar all set up. Those are very TE type things. ISTPs, I think, are not gonna like the cubicle. They're probably not gonna like the Google Calendar as much. I can see them both into business books. I have met an ISTP who owned a business. So sometimes people like will stereotype TE with business, but I've seen ISTPs own their own businesses. The business that I'm thinking of was a protein shake shop. So that seems kind of like an ISTP business to have. So the next cognitive functions are their feeling functions. So INTJ's third function is introverted feeling. ISTP's fourth function is extroverted feeling. So since INTJ's third function is introverted feeling, especially when they're younger, people tend to be over-reliant on their third function. So INTJs might think that they're feelers. Any of the IJs and the EPs can be unsure if they're thinkers or feelers because they have those functions second and third, whereas ISTPs have their thinking function first. And I think ISTPs probably don't get their feelings hurt very much because they don't have any internal feeling function. Introverted feeling, the INTJs have, is focused on your inner feelings, your inner beliefs, your inner morals. ISTPs have extroverted feeling, which is oriented on the external feelings of the group and social appropriateness and social norms. So for INTJs, they can tend to be way too much in their feelings, especially when they're younger, and they may even come off like a feeler, kind of mopey, whining, crying, depressed. I mean, these are not good traits. They can come off really not good. I get the same vibe from ISTJs. Whereas ISTPs have their extroverted feeling function fourth, and people's fourth function tends to be kind of turned off. So they kind of have a sense of social appropriateness and getting someone's plate and things like that, but they probably are more likely to feel awkward. I think INTJs and ISTPs will come off awkward, but I don't think INTJs will realize they come off awkward as much, and I think ISTPs are kind of aware of social norms a little bit more. Like, they're aware of it because they have that extroverted feeling function, but since it's fourth, it's kind of like turned off, and they're just like not sure what to do with it. I never see ISTPs crying or sad. Like, I know male and female ISTPs, and they're just so matter of fact. Like, they just don't get their feelings hurt. I feel like you could tell an ISTP anything. I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. Getting your feelings hurt just like does not compute or something there. And I really am just astounded by it. I really respect it. Finally, I'll contrast their sensing function. So they both have extroverted sensing, but they're in different positions. So INTJs have extroverted sensing fourth, and ISTPs have extroverted sensing second. So for INTJs, extroverted sensing is going to be turned off. I've mentioned this before, like, if I'm dehydrated, I don't realize it until I have kidney pain. Or there's like the feeling of, like, everyone's had the experience where you drive home and you don't remember how you got there, kind of like dissociating. It's like that for me, but like almost all the time. It's a very dissociated state out of the body. If I get into extroverted sensing, because it's fourth, it tends to be kind of negative. So I very, very, very rarely am in it, but if I am in it, it's like shopping too much or eating out too much, like eating out like too much junk food. Very indulgent. It's like not healthy when I use it. It's like I rarely use it. When I do use it, it tends to be unhealthy. But occasionally I'll want to listen to really loud EDM music, but that's very rare. Whereas ISTPs use it in their second spot, which is a lot more responsible when it's in its second spot. I notice that ISTPs are very good with their bodies. They tend to, be drinking water. I notice they tend to work out. When ISTPs are healthy, they get into extroverted sensing. So I've had comments from INTJs, and they'll say, like, I think that I just have really well-developed extroverted sensing. I've been a blacksmith, a welder, an engineer, and it must be just because of the family I grew up in, but extroverted sensing is really well-developed in me. And when I see that, I don't know the person, it's just based on the comment, but I'm like, that's probably an ISTP. Like, if you've got any sort of physical job, if your job is even remotely physical, I do not think an INTJ would be in that job. Like I say, like, INTJs are just prime for desk jobs. Like, we just don't want to move, and we enjoy that. ISTPs don't get a sense of enjoying desk jobs. They enjoy moving their body. They're very responsible with their senses. I don't really see ISTPs indulging with their senses. Like, I just see them being a lot more principled. The way that INTJs are more principled with NI, ISTPs are more principled with SE. Like, sometimes an INTJ, like, sometimes I get with SE, I'll be like really scared of going to the dentist or scared of flying because it's the fourth function. Whereas I've never seen an ISTP scared of flying or scared of going to the dentist. Like, I think ISTPs are just pretty, like, understand sensory things, and that's like in their wheelhouse. Both of these types are very intuitive. Like, I think ISTPs are going to be unsure, like, am I a sensor or intuitive? Because they have those functions, second and third. Whereas INTJs are going to be unsure, am I a thinker or feeler? Because they have those functions, second and third. So I'll just contrast some examples. Like, when I think of their clothes, INTJs, I notice, wear all black. I see them in more, I see INTJs going toward somewhat a little bit more of an edgy style, like staying ahead of fashion trends sometimes, depending on how well their extroverted sensing is developed. ISTPs, I don't see them wanting to engage in fashion trends at all. I see them wearing very sturdy clothes. Like when I think of ISTPs, I think of places like REI, Cabela's. They want good quality clothing, definitely function over form. They don't want it to be too expensive, but they do want it to be good quality material. Whereas like when I buy clothing, I don't think about the material at all. And I don't really think about if things are itchy or anything like that. I don't even think about that. Whereas like I know some ISTPs, they are so particular. They will not get wool socks. They will only get these kind of socks. And I don't know, they're just very particular with material with their clothing. I think they would have much different choices in careers. I think INTJs might like event planning, being a professor, maybe a math professor, philosophy professor. ISTPs I see a lot more in those like blacksmith, welding, EMT, paramedic, firefighter, owner of a protein shake shop, owner of a gym. So a lot more like physical things. And it's things that combine physical energy with technique, I've noticed. I think their hobbies, I think ISTPs are going to have a lot more physical solo hobbies. Like I think ISTPs probably would enjoy fishing, hiking, biking, soccer, maybe like whitewater rafting, maybe rock climbing. I don't know. These are very stereotypical hobbies. INTJs are not going to have any physical hobbies, really. You're going to be hard pressed to get them to move their body at all. INTJs are going to have hobbies. Maybe reading business books. Hobbies. What are hobbies for INTJs? I don't know that INTJs, the functions INTJs have are not necessarily the stereotypical hobbies people would think of. People have asked me my hobbies before, and I like monthly planning is a hobby of mine. Quarterly planning, setting quarterly goals. I enjoy doing that. Just like, that's like my hobbies. I love to plan, like futuristically, like what do I want this year to look like? As soon as yearly planning comes up, I'm like stoked. Yeah, I'm probably just sitting on the couch researching, honestly, and not moving. To the level that I do not use extroverted sensing, I want to make it very clear to the ISTPs. I will sit on a couch for 5 hours. My husband leaves. He comes back. I haven't moved. I didn't get up to move. I didn't get up to get food. I didn't get up to get water. I didn't do anything. I sat there for 5 hours. And that's sort of like, it's sedentary. Like INTJs are very, very sedentary, especially if they don't work on extroverted sensing. A situation that I've been in, so like with me being an INTJ and being around ISTPs, an ISTP asked me and my husband to come over and help him put up a gazebo. And I ended up being the person that would just like read out the instructions, found the parts. Like I was just a couple steps ahead figuring out, okay, they're going to need, in 3 steps, they're going to need this part and this part, so I'll get that ready for them. The ISTP was enjoying putting it together. Like ISTPs don't want to look at the manual. They don't want to read the manual. So they like really enjoy, like it was a really just good alignment of abilities. I like to direct people. I like to read the manual. I like to be a couple steps ahead, and then I'll direct them and tell them what to do. That's like an extroverted thinking, directing someone. Whereas an ISTP, they got to use, they like the technical ability and making sure that when they put the part together, it's nice and sturdy. Like they make very sturdy things. And they enjoy the putting things together more than the manual. Like I think ISTPs don't like manuals. So yeah, the next video, if you haven't already seen them, I recommend that you watch the INTJ video or the ISTP video, depending on which one you are. If you're still unclear, you can take a look at my N versus S video or my J versus P video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.